and ask the secretary to please call the roll. And you'll note that our secretary today is Dawn McDonald rather than Vicky Sewell.
William May,
Here.
David Boggs,
Here.
Patty Cross,
Here.
Keith Lee, Timothy Lusher,
Here.
Charles Stewart, Brent Swager,
Here.
Russell Wright, Sharon Jackson,
Here.
Daryl Sanderson, Paul Looney.
Here.
We have a quorum of 7.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. At this time, we will entertain a motion to approve the September 15 minutes, and it needs to be the revised September 15 minutes. You should have gotten them on yesterday from Vicky Sewell.
Sharon, to be clear, these are the minutes that were emailed to us yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. I so move to approve the revised minutes of last meeting of October 4. What was the last meeting? September 15th, 2021.
There's second.
Second.
Moved and properly second that the revised minutes from the September 15, 2021 meeting be accepted. They're in a discussion. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
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 Opposed, likewise. Motion carries. That's an extra vote. Don't worry about it. Motion carries. Are there any amendments to the bills, payment of the bills? My agenda has no dollar numbers, but do have listed individuals who are to be paid.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
would you be interested in a motion just to approve the payment of the bills for these 4 individuals, the current bills?
Mr. Logan, would that be appropriate? And I do know that you're one of the people, but
My name is say yes with this caveat. I think it ought to be to approve the bills as normally submitted so that if there's anything extraordinary out of the order, it'll come back to us.
Okay. I will make that my motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and properly second that the commission pay bills that would ordinarily have come for payment. Their discussion. There being none, all in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
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 Likewise. Motion carries. Staff items.
I don't believe we have any.
Well,
I think on the agenda, which I don't have in front of me, unfortunately, did have a comp plan update, but I
Right.
do not have anything for you in regard to that.
Well, I see Robert listed on here. I don't know if he's over at fiscal court or not.
Yes, I believe he's multitasking. He's hosting this meeting, but otherwise unavailable.
Okay. Okay, well, in that case, under staff items, I'll do the comprehensive plan update. So that everybody's aware of what's going on. The contract for the comprehensive plan update was put on the agenda of fiscal court for the September meeting, and members of fiscal court asked that we provide them some additional information on costs related to doing an add-on to the comprehensive plan contract that allowed the consultant to go in and do an update or rewrite of the zoning ordinances that would implement the new comprehensive plan. We solicited that information from the consultant and have provided that information to fiscal court. And we do anticipate that fiscal court will receive that information and have the contract on their agenda this month. And that way we'll know that fiscal court will pay their portion of the contract cost, and that same information will go to the city commission later this month, so that we'll know that the city commission will pay their portion of the contract amount, and we'll sign the contract and finally be able to get underway. That's the update. We are now down to the part of the, well, wait a minute. There's another piece that we need to find out about. Brent, did you all, you and planning and zoning staff come to any conclusions about summaries that would be provided to the planning commission regarding plans and et cetera that have been administratively signed by staff?
We started that process. We've not completed it yet. So
Okay.
we've had some preliminary discussions, and we're going to continue putting that together. So hopefully we'll have something by next month in terms of what that content will be.
Okay. Okay. The other question is, did you all have a chance to talk about having a presentation or seminar about form-based and Euclidean zoning code?
No, we have not started that yet.
Okay. Okay. Then we're down to old business on our agenda, and we'll ask the secretary if she would please call the first item under old business. No, yes, old business.
Absolutely. This is a public hearing. Mike and Jamie Rice are requesting approval of a zone map amendment from rural residential RR to agricultural district AG for 42.012 acres of property at 1860 Cardwell Lane, as shown in Indeed Book 593, page 839. The tracks are more specifically identified as PVA map numbers 037-00-00-035.00, 037-00-00-036.00, and 037-00-00-035.03 and 037-00-00-034.02. And this is a county item.
Okay. I don't have any way of knowing who wishes to speak or not speak for the public item. Ben, Mr. Judah, do you have any idea other than yourself and the applicant, who else might be wishing to speak for or against the item?
Yes, I believe there are a few members of the public present on this Zoom meeting that we're having right now, interested in this item. I don't know who plans on speaking to it or not.
Okay, Mr. Logan, in order to do this public hearing, these people need to be sworn in. You have any idea how we might accomplish that?
Well, if they are listening in, I'm assuming that we can have those, each individual calls so that they can give their name and whether or not they intend to testify, and Don can swear all of them as we do others at the same time.
Okay. Let's see if we can do that. Zachary, I think you are the person who has control of access to anyone who's visiting on the other line. Would you ask them to identify for you who they are and whether they do plan to speak for or against?
Mr. Hewitt's the organizer of this meeting, but I do see some names on the participant list that I believe are interested. One is shown as Rapier's. I believe Mr. Michael Lee is also interested. And then potentially Leslie Stamper, but I'm not entirely sure. But I believe those are the three people I see listed on the participants that might wish to speak to this item.
Okay.
Mr.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Jackson, I
Go
would
ahead.
go forward, qualify the witness, and let the applicant make their testimony, and then we can call each of those individuals to see if they'd like to provide testimony.
Okay, we'll do it that way. If you don't mind, who's representing the applicant?
Jamie Rice is present on the call and she is the applicant.
Okay. So Don, if you would swear Mr. Judah and Miss Rice, then we'll take it from there, because after that, Mr. Logan has to qualify Mr. Judah.
Mr. Judah and Miss Rice, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Logan, if you'll qualify staff, we'll get
Yes, sir.
started.
Mr. Judah, would you state your name and position for the record?
Ben Judah, Planning Supervisor for Franklin County.
And in your position of planning supervisor, have you reviewed the application for a zone map amendment from rural residential to agricultural by Jamie Rice?
Yes.
And did you review this in your capacity as supervisor?
Yes.
And did you make a recommendation based upon your training, education, and experience in the area of planning?
I did.
Did you reduce that to a report that was provided as part of the agenda tonight?
I have.
Do you currently have any additions or deletions to that staff report?
No, sir.
And in that staff report, did you recommend approval of the zone map amendment and find that the comprehensive plan future land use map designated rural activities for this area?
Yes.
Would you briefly indicate to the commission some of the reasons that you found positive findings and made that recommendation?
Sure. I just briefly will summarize my report if you don't mind. The subject property is located in the southwest quadrant of Franklin County along Cardwell Lane. Presently on site, there are two barn structures. The surrounding zoning is entirely rural residential with a mixture of residential and agricultural uses. The subject site is accessed via Cardwell Lane, as I mentioned, which is about 2,700 feet south of the Cardwell Lane underpass to I-64. Throughout my report, I have all positive findings throughout the goals listed in the comprehensive plan. And based upon those positive findings, I made two findings of fact. One, the comprehensive plan future land use plan designates the property for rural activities. And two, the agricultural zoning designation is an appropriate zoning district for rural activity land use designation. And with that, I'd like to enter my report into the record and I will take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Judy.
Are there questions, Mr. Logan, that you might have of staff?
No, sir.
Then for commission members, Patty?
Well, on the chat thing, there is a person who said that last month they asked to be a part because this is in their neighborhood and I don't see them on here. And I don't know if there's a way to add them. They wish to speak. It's Rebecca Rainey.
Are you watching it on Facebook?
I am.
There's no easy way to interact via Facebook unless you would somehow, I don't know, Mr. Logan might need to clarify if you could relay what she's saying, but the meeting link was the way to participate in this meeting. And so people have requested that meeting link from me and they are on this call. There were a few people who did request the meeting link and are not here, but that was the way to participate.
But she says that she asked you last month to be included. And I just wondered if there was a way to zip her a link so that she could be
I'm not sure at this late stage if I would have to get on my work computer where I might have had her email address. I don't have it present with me. But yeah, I probably did send an invite to her last month, but that was for last month's meeting. And I apologize, I didn't get it to everybody. They needed to request it again.
Well, two things, and Mr. Logan, you correct me if I'm incorrect. Zachary Hubbard, who's the person at the plant board, can forward that link to her if we have her email address, or Ms. Cross, you could probably forward it to her from your station.
okay. I can try to do that. Is that okay if I do that?
Yeah, as long as she gets the link and can participate, that should resolve that issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I apologize that I didn't get that to her.
Sorry.
Okay. In the meantime, let us know, Patty, when you finish. In the meantime, is there any other commissioner who has a question of Mr. Judith?
Oh, actually, Sharon,
Lusher?
thank you. Ben, this may be a better question for the applicant, but since you put the report together, let's start with you. It's really just for clarification purposes. In a number of locations within the report, this with the zone change and the conditional use, it is referred to as yoga campground, but there's not much detail on the campground part. Can you clarify that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So originally the request did come in with two separate conditional use permit requests. One was for a campground, the other was a yoga venue, and we were treating both of those requests separately. Upon some additional review, the applicant has decided to table the campground for now. So it's not being considered at this meeting tonight. It could potentially reappear in the future if the applicant were to choose to move forward with that part of it. But for now, they're leaving that tabled and are just moving forward with the yoga venue only. Originally, the yoga venue also was proposed to be held within a barn, but that has now also been changed to outdoor use only.
Okay, so to be clear, both the future possible campground request and this current yoga center request both require the zone change from rural residential to agricultural.
Correct.
It's the same zone change. Okay.
Correct. And I would also like to add, after some further discussion with the applicant, separate from those conditional uses, she does have a vision for the farm that would also include the growing and selling of produce and selling produce from that site, which is definitely more of a gray area in the rural residential zone, but is definitely permitted as a use in the ag zone. So if she were granted the zone change, she could sell produce from her location at 1860 Cardwell.
And that does not need to come back to us, correct?
No, selling of produce is permitted in agricultural zones.
Okay. That's my only question.
Okay. Are there questions by other commissioners?
May I ask a question, Mr.
Ms.
Jack-
Logan?
Ben, is there a limitation on the request for individuals that will participate in this yoga venue?
What can you rephrase that? A limit in what sense? So the number of
Is it gonna
participants?
be a yoga venue for 2,000 people or for 20?
So this might be more appropriate for the conditional use permit request portion of things that we will be hearing later. But yes, the applicant does state that they will be limiting the number of participants. Initially, I think she says most of her yoga sessions will be one-on-one. So it could be as few as one participant. And then she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like 4 or 5 people max.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions by other commissioners? If not, Mr. Judah, I have a couple of questions and then we'll move to the applicant. Are these parcels that we're looking at in the zone change, are those separate and distinct parcels?
They are under one deed. So staff is treating it,
Okay,
the zone change as a whole.
okay. And then the other question is, based upon your findings of fact, the 2 findings of fact, are you stating de factorally that the request is in compliance with the comp plan?
Yeah,
Is that what your finding is?
I would agree with that statement, yes.
Then are you willing to add that as a 3rd finding and just state out directly that the
Number
request?
3 being that the zone change request is in agreement with the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
I think that that would be a fair one if you would like to add that.
well, I'm suggesting and asking, you have to agree.
I agree.
Okay. Ms. Rice, you have questions of staff?
I do not.
Okay. Then, Mr. Judah, thank you very much. And we will now move to the presentation by Ms. Rice, the applicant.
Well, I'm really not prepared to do a presentation. I thought that the memo was sufficient, but I guess I can hopefully give you an overview of our vision here. I
Well,
have,
before you start, we might be able to simplify this.
okay,
Just respond to my question, please.
okay,
Do you agree with the staff report and the findings included in the staff report?
yes.
Do you have anything that you believe need to be added to the staff report?
No, only if someone wanted clarification. It's kind of like when you're reading email, you know.
Yeah, but we don't want to confuse anything.
I got you. Yeah, no, it's
Okay, then are you willing to stand for questions by the commission?
certainly.
Good. Stand by. Are there questions of Ms. Rice by any commissioner? Mr. Logan, do you have any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Rice? We thank you very much. And I think we can move on if you don't have any other additions.
Yeah.
Okay. That concludes the public hearing.
No, sir. I think I've given up.
No, I got public people who are supposed to be speaking. Mr. Judah, since you have the list, would you read them off? The ones who wish to speak for first, and those who wish to speak against last.
Okay, I'm not sure who's for and who's against, but I can read.
And just read them
who's-
off alphabetically, and we'll go from there.
All right. I'm going down the list. Looks like the first one I see is a Leslie Stamper.
Okay, Ms. McDonald, if you would, please swear Ms. Stamper. You're muted.
Thank you. Ms. Stamper, do you agree to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ms. Stamper, you're muted. Mr. Hubbard, can you help with that? It seems that Ms. Stamper is not with us. Would you please give us the next name, Mr. Judah? We'll come back to Ms. Stamper.
Sure. The next public member I see on this list is Michael Lee.
Mr. Lee,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
you're muted. Are you there? Try it again. Okay.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
there you are.
Okay. Ms. McDonald, if you would, swear Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I think we just lost him. There he's back. He's back now. I don't think he heard you.
Mr. Lee, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, he's muted again.
There
There you go. He said, yes,
Can anyone hear me?
we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm having some connection difficulties. I don't know why this thing keeps on dropping. I apologize.
Okay, so that we can make sure our record is clear. Mr. Lee, would you state your full name, address, and tell us if you're speaking for or against the measure.
My name is Michael Lee. I'm at 2292 Cardwell Lane. I'm not necessarily for or against. I was just curious when I saw the sign go up. I just wanted to have some more information. So,
Okay,
hello.
the floor is yours. Let's see if we can provide it.
Well, I'm not an adjacent neighbor, but I'm adjacent to an adjacent neighbor. So, I mean, the Rice property is about 250 feet from my property. So my only initial concern was any lighting that may go up, or, you know, because I'm not a fan of.
We lost him again.
Uh-oh. Okay, let's see if he comes back. There he is.
I don't know what's going on here. It keeps on dropping. I don't know why, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty cool, actually, what they're doing. I guess the question I had, if some of this stuff has been tabled, the campground and that sort of thing, can't she just get an approval for everything, have it go through, and
Well,
she
the
can choose to do
table-
it, you know, rather than coming back 2 or 3 times?
No, the tabled items will remain on the table. Only the items that we're discussing
Okay.
tonight would be up for action by the planning commission.
Okay, so if she wants to do the campground later, she'll have to come back and do that. If she wants to do the vegetables and the fruit or whatever, she'll have to come back and do that, right?
Actually,
No.
the vegetables would be permitted in this zoning district without any additional approval if the zone change were to be granted. But the campground would require additional approval.
Okay, so outdoor yoga.
Well,
Sounds
that
fun.
was tabled as well, wasn't it?
That's all I have.
No, sir, that's coming up. That's our next agenda item.
Okay, the outdoor yoga, Mr. Lee, you just have to remain on the line until we get to that, and you can speak to that at that time.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else to say. I guess I'll go back to mute, and
Well,
sounds good to
hold
me.
on, let me see if there are questions by members of the commission. I see none, so if you'll go back to mute, we'll be okay. Mr. Logan, you didn't have anything, did you?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Judah, if you will give us our next speaker.
Sure. The next one is the Rapiers.
Rapier,
I believe it's that's the surname is Rapiers.
Yeah, Shelley Rapier. We're at 2270 Cardwell Lane.
okay, would you tell us, Ms. Rapier, if you are speaking in favor or against the request?
I'm the same as Michael. We're not really for or against. I think the yoga and the produce, everything sounds great. Our only concern has been about the campground. You know, like if approved for 4 or 5 spots, what's it?
Well, they're welcome to speak now if she's available.
I don't see her on here. Ms. Cross, were you able to forward that? You're muted.
There we are. I have a feeling I've lost that person. I mean, they still seem to be on the thread on Facebook, but I sent it via Facebook Messenger because I don't have their email address, and I've not seen her pop up, so I don't know what that means.
I just sent her a message,
Okay.
and she said she's not interested in speaking.
Oh, okay. Maybe she just wanted to be on the link.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Logan, do we give her a minute or two, or do we go ahead and move forward?
Move forward. She said she was not interested in speaking, and I don't know that we wait around for folks to decide that.
Okay, in that case, that completes the public hearing. And what we do at this point is I need to ask commissioners, are you all interested in acting on this issue tonight? I see one affirmative, two affirmatives. Okay, then we will close I move that we close the public hearing, adopt the staff report as a summary of the public hearing, and if there's no objection from our legal counsel, we will take action on this matter this evening.
I have no objection.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Madam Secretary, if you would, call a roll, please.
William May,
Aye, yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes.
Ms. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Lusher,
Yes.
Mr. Swagger,
Yes.
Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Looney.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. The next step in this process is that we identify findings of fact in the matter. Do we?
Mr. Jackson, I'd like to make a motion of findings of facts to accept the 3 findings of facts by the staff on page 12 of the report. Number 1, the comprehensive plan, future land use plan designates the property for rural activities. Number 2, agricultural AG zone district is an appropriate zone district for the rural activities land use designation. And correct me if I did not get my notes correct, but number 3, the zone change request is in agreement with the comprehensive plan.
I'll second.
Moved and properly second that we adopt the 3 findings of fact. All in favor of the 3 findings of fact, please vote aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The 3 findings of fact are adopted. The next thing we need to do is to cease, unless there are other findings of fact. We need to have a motion to cease the findings of fact.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second that we cease findings of fact. Discussion. There being none, all in favor of ceasing the findings of fact, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We'll cease the findings of fact. Now, is there a motion to recommend to fiscal court that the request for zone change be granted, or that the request for zone change not be granted?
Anyone?
I just need a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to the fiscal court to approve the zone map amendment from rural residential district RR to agricultural district AG for 42.02 acres of the property at 1860 Cardwell Lane, as shown in the deed book 593, page 839. The tracts are more specifically identified in the PVA map numbers 037, 00, 00, 035.00, 037000036.00, 037000035.03, and 037000034.02.
Second.
Good. And we need to make sure that we add on the front of that based on the findings of fact.
Agreed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. May,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes.
Ms. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Lusher,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Chair Jackson,
Yes.
and Mr. Looney.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Ms. Rice, the Planning Commission will forward a recommendation to fiscal court for their review and action that your request for zone change amendment from RR to AG be granted.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Secretary, if you would call item 2 under new business.
In accordance with sections 155.8085, 155.194, 155.105 of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances, Mike and Jamie Rice are requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a yoga venue at 1860 Cardwell Lane. The property is more specifically identified as PVA map number 03700000034.02.
Okay, now the conditional use permit is for farm and for the yoga.
Only for yoga.
Farm is what they're planning on doing regardless of the conditional use.
If
But yeah,
it gets approved.
Correct,
Yeah, we can't do it tonight. It has to be approved at fiscal court.
correct.
Okay. We don't have to swear anybody. So what we'll do is ask Mr. Judah, as a staff person, you're going to make the presentation.
Sure. All right.
Mr. Logan, do you have to do any?
No, sir.
Okay, go for it.
All right, so the request here tonight is a conditional use permit request to allow the operation of a yoga venue. While yoga venue is not specifically identified on the Franklin County land use table, recreation not elsewhere classified, which is code 809, is listed on the table, and it is a conditional use in the agricultural zone. So hence the earlier request to rezone to ag. Per section 155.194A of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances, there is a provision in there that would allow for the zone change and the conditional use to be heard at the same meeting in order to avoid duplicate hearings. And so that is why the Planning Commission is hearing the conditional use permit and not the not Board of Zoning Adjustments. Throughout my report, I have all positive findings. The road capacity is adequate. The Planning Commission's traffic engineer had determined that an additional traffic impact study was not warranted. No new public facilities are needed to serve the yoga venue since it'll be primarily outdoor. However, staff did not confirm whether or not rest facilities would be provided. Yeah, throughout the whole report, I did have all positive findings, and I did include a recommendation of 6 conditions. And those are as follows. 1, the conditional use is permitted only at 1860 Cardwell Lane. 2, the conditional use is granted only to Mike and Jamie Rice to allow the use of the property for a yoga venue. 3, conditional use is not transferable, and any change in ownership would make the use and approval null and void. The fire department's request for road access improvements must be satisfied prior to the use commencing, including fence and gate and roadway improvements on site. 5, The use is approved for outdoor use only. No barns on site shall be used for the yoga venue. 6 hours of operation shall be limited to 8 and 9 p.m. I am recommending approval. I would like to touch base on some of the fire department's concerns. Assistant Fire Chief Brewer, myself, and the applicant met on site to kind of talk through some of the potential issues. And based upon those discussions, this applicant is able to meet those requests with some additional improvements on site. And I would like to enter my report into the record, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay.
Okay, I see Mr. Lusher.
Hey, Mr. Looney. Paul, would you like to go first?
ahead.
On exactly those conditions that you put on, I think you might explain the fire department's concern. But I had two others, and one regarding a reply from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So could you explain, give us more detail on the number 5, the outdoor use only, no barns on site? What is the reasoning and why no barns?
Sure. So the fire department had some concerns, and they were requesting that for the indoor use to be acceptable to them, they wanted a fire hydrant installed on site, which presents some cost challenges and some other challenges. One of the reasons perhaps why the campground was tabled. And so the fire department was satisfied by taking the activity outdoors and no longer would be requesting a hydrant for that. So that's kind of why I put that in there. They would need to also potentially make some improvements to the barn itself to make it safe for commercial use.
Okay. The other question I had was regarding the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. There was a conditional encroachment permit required to modify the existing farm entrance to commercial entrance. Is there an issue with the current entrance?
No, I think that they were just kind of saying if this were to be upgraded to a commercial entrance, that they would have to go through the proper channels. I don't believe at this time any changes to the main entrance are needed. Again, going back to our the fire department's meeting out on site, Chief Brewer stated that he thought that the apparatus would be able to enter the site, but may have to swing a little wide to do it. But he was confident that they'd be able to enter and access the site. So at this time, I don't believe any new entrances are proposed.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Looney.
Yeah, Mr. Jude, just a general question. Looking at the land use table, Code 809 appears to be under public land recreation. And so and there's a whole separate section on land recreation operated for profit that doesn't include a similar code. So it's just a question that doesn't feel like it's an appropriate code to use in this situation, but a question for you on that.
Sure. So yeah, very specific uses do get kind of challenging to kind of pin down a very specific, this is what this has to be classified under as. So staff often has to make interpretations as to what most closely fits and kind of look to see where it's allowed. And then also in addition to that, this is a recreational use in staff's view. So that's why we're making them go the conditional use permit route, so that it kind of falls more in line with some of the other recreational activities that would also be conditional uses in this zone. So sorry if I may be a little confusing with that.
Ben, I have a follow-up question. I'm sorry.
Tim, if
no,
Paul, let's see if Paul's done first. Mr. Looney's done first.
I guess it's a question for Mr. Logan too, that it doesn't feel appropriate to use a public land use code to satisfy a private for-profit use permit. But I'm an engineer, not an attorney. I'll ask Mr. Logan.
Well, if we didn't have that section of the code, we wouldn't have anything require the conditional use on. So Mr. Judah is using the highest standard for this application.
In other words, there's similar uses so this is a specific use that's not in the table. So I have to hang my hat on something. And so in this case, other conditional uses that are recreational in nature are similar. So I just, it's kind of a gray area since the table doesn't explicitly list yoga venue. So maybe perhaps as it does say public, it wasn't the best choice. But other recreational activities are treated very similarly.
Okay, no, I'm good with Mr. Logan's response. Thank you, Mr. Judah, Mr. Logan.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Lusher.
First, I apologize, Paul. I didn't realize you were not finished. Just a quick question, Ben. Following up on the fire department, the barns, et cetera, by putting in the conditions as you have stated now, if at some point Ms. Rice does upgrade her facilities to those standards, does she need to come back to us again to change this conditional use, or is that an administration activity?
No, I think that it would require an amended conditional use permit. It might not come before this body, but it could go before the Board of Zoning Adjustments. If she makes some additional improvements on site, she could make the request to have indoor yoga, and it would just have to go through the same process, but it'd be an amended conditional use. Because this being a condition, if you were to make that a condition, if she were to start operating in the barn, it would violate one of the conditions. So she would have to come back and reapply.
Okay. And Ms. Rice, are you okay with that?
Yes.
And even though Ms. Rice has said yes, I'm going to propose something. Ms. Logan, you listen just in case I overstep my bounds here. Can't that number 5, sentence 2 simply read, no barns on site shall be used for the yoga venue unless a hydrant has been installed? And that way she doesn't have to come back if she does what the ordinance requires or what the fire chief requires.
There might be some other building code issues that might need to be addressed as well. I don't have Greg Owens with me to answer those questions, though.
Mr. Jackson, I think we're creating a problem we don't need to.
Okay, I withdraw my comment and let's move on. Are there other questions by commissioners that need to be asked? Mr. Logan, do you have any further questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. I have to ask if among the public participants, are there questions of Mr. Judah? Mr. Lee, Hewitt Rapiers, and I don't know who Kevin is.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
I guess my only issue, you're being very specific for yoga and yoga only. So if she wanted to do a variation and say aerobics or something like that, she wouldn't be allowed to do that. Or you're being really specific on yoga. Or is that her intent? Is that the only thing that's ever going to occur there? Or
Yes, so yoga was the request. So that's what that's the analysis that was done. The applicant may be able to speak to any other future plans.
Yeah, I appreciate that question because I am a personal trainer and a sport nutrition specialist. So, I mean, my one-on-one sessions are considered personal training, even if it is primarily yoga. So that's a great question. So I guess I have that same question too then. If I have a client who that particular day we're not working on yoga, we're doing nutrition, does that mean I can't do it?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah.
I feel like we're almost splitting hairs, so
Yeah.
I don't see too big an issue with that.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? If not, we'll ask Ms. Rice if she would make her presentation, or maybe we need to follow the same process as we followed in the request for zone change.
Okay,
Do you have a special presentation that you would like to make?
I don't. I'm happy to clarify anybody's concerns or questions. I totally want a serene atmosphere out there. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Well, for the record, have you reviewed the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Are there any items that you need to clarify or add to the staff report?
I don't think so.
Okay. Those things being said, thank you very much. Now I need to ask Mr. Lee, Kevin, the Rapiers, if either of you would like to speak for or against the request. For purposes
It sounds like I'm going to be all for it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm totally good with yoga.
okay. Okay. We're done, and thank you all. Members of the commission, we're at the point of discussion. If there's any need for discussion, if not, we don't have to have findings of fact, but we do have to have a motion to address the request. Yes, sir, Mr. Lush.
Oh, actually, no, Patty had her hand raised. I had a question.
Oh, I was just, go ahead, Mr. Leisure.
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Cross. I just, based on a comment that Ed made earlier, are we able to take action on this item tonight? We are? Okay.
We are, and as a prelude to any recommendation we make or any decision we make, we would have as a prelude, I guess, the comment that based on the action of fiscal court regarding the recommendation for zone change, we either approve or not approve. Mr. Logan, did I misstate that?
Mr. Logan, you're muted.
We can grant a conditional use whether or not they approve the zone change, because the property could be used under other circumstances.
Okay.
So let's,
Then the prelude is unnecessary, and we can entertain a straight up recommendation to approve or not approve. Ms. Cross.
Okay, I would like to move that we recommend approval of the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to allow a yoga venue at the property located at 1860 Cardwell Lane with the 6 conditions listed on page 4 of staff's report.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Been
Who was
moved.
that second, please?
Give it to Brent.
Thank you.
Okay. We've had, it's been properly moved and second that the planning commission approve a conditional use permit for, as requested by Mike and Jamie Rice, to do those things based upon the 6 conditions as outlined on page 4 of the staff report. discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion. There being none, call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Mr. May,
Yes.
Mr. Boggs,
Yes.
Ms. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Lusher,
Yes.
Mr. Swager,
Yes.
Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Looney.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That concludes the business of the Planning Commission. Is there anything that anyone wishes to say, commissioners wish to say for the benefit of the commission? Hearing none, seeing none. Good night, you all. And thank you very much for
And everyone.
attending.
Good night.